Welcome to the American Presidency Unfiltered, the show where we take a fresh, sometimes irreverent look at the men who've held America's highest office and the wild, strange, and sometimes tragic stories that surround them. I'm your host, Brad Pitzl from Presidents.website. Today's episode is a medical mystery wrapped in a presidential tragedy and sprinkled with just enough incompetence to make your local urgent care look like a modern miracle of science. We're talking about the assassination of President James A. Garfield. But here's the twist. The bullet really didn't kill him. The doctors did. Today's episode is brought to you by politicaltradingcards.com. Grab a piece of history with the latest trading cards from the left and the right. politicaltradingcards.com. July 2nd, 1881. The Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. President Garfield is headed to his college reunion when a man named Charles Guiteau decides he deserves a government job. And since he didn't get one, he'll take his revenge instead. Guiteau shoots Garfield twice. One bullet grazes his arm. The other lodges deep in his back. Garfield collapses. Guiteau shouts, "I'm a stalwart of the stalwarts, and Arthur is president now." It sounds dramatic, but the shot wasn't instantly fatal. In fact, the president was very much alive and alert. If this were today, he'd be on his way to a trauma center with doctors ready to scan, clean, and patch him up. But it wasn't. It was 1881, which means the next part of this story is where things truly go wrong. Enter Dr. Willard Bliss. And yes, that was his real name. The irony writes itself. Bliss takes control of Garfield's care, and from there, it's like watching a 19th century medical blooper reel. He starts probing Garfield's wound with his bare, unwashed hands and metal tools that hadn't seen soap, much less sterilization. This is the late 1800s, mind you, when germ theory was already accepted in Europe. British surgeon Joseph Lister had been preaching about antiseptic surgery for years, but Bliss thought it was unproven science. So instead of cleanliness, we got guesswork. He kept insisting the bullet was on the right side of Garfield's body when it was actually on the left. Charles Guiteau, the shooter, even joked later that yes, I shot the president, but the doctors killed him. It's grim, but not wrong. Garfield didn't die that day. He hung on for nearly 79 long, miserable days. At first, he rallied. The country prayed. Newspapers printed daily bulletins, and Americans gathered outside the White House for updates. But as infection set in, things got worse. Every time Bliss and his team examined Garfield, they made things worse. The wound was reopened, reprobed, and eventually turned into an infected tunnel nearly 20 inches long. The president wasted away, losing nearly 80 pounds. And in one of the strangest footnotes in history, Alexander Graham Bell, yes, the telephone guy, brought a homemade metal detector to find the bullet. The device failed, partly because Bliss made Bell scan the wrong side of his body. If you wrote this in a novel, an editor would say, no one's that unlucky. Garfield finally died on September 19, 1881, from sepsis and complications caused entirely by the infection. So let's play a little what if. Imagine Garfield's same injury today. The bullet misses vital organs. He's rushed to the ER, stabilized, scanned with imaging. The bullet's found, wound cleaned, antibiotics started. Within a week or two, he's home. In 1881, however, it's more like, hold him down, I'm going in again. Even a $20 roadside emergency kit with antiseptic wipes and gloves might have saved him. Instead, his treatment became a lesson in why science, cleanliness, and humility matter, and maybe why you should never let a man named Bliss touch your open wound. Garfield's death wasn't in vain. It forced American doctors to confront their own stubbornness. Within a few years, antiseptic and sterile techniques became the medical norm. It also nudged Congress to consider better presidential security, though it took another 20 years and another assassination before the Secret Service took on that job. So yes, Garfield's death changed medicine and history, but it's hard not to wonder what could have been if a bar of soap, a bottle of antiseptic, and a dose of humility had been in that train station. It's still one of the most painful, if only, stories in American history, but also one of the most fascinating. And that's it for today's episode of the American Presidency Unfiltered. I'm Brad Pitzl, reminding you that sometimes the past doesn't just show us how far we've come, it shows us how close we came to saving a life. If only we'd washed our hands first. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Check out our past deep dives in presidential histories. Follow, rate, review, and share with all of your history buff friends. Thanks for listening. And remember, history is never as clean as it looks.